The Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. With your hosts, Joe Bond.
You're awful.
And AJ Applegart.
It's Sin Shu Chu. It's a mouthful.
All right. Welcome to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me, as usual, the cheerful AJ Applegart. Are you getting in the Christmas spirit now?
I don't know what you're talking about. I love Christmas. It is my favorite time of the year.
Okay, we'll just forget the last 2 weeks opening conversation. That's awesome. Yeah, good times. All right, so we've got the Chargers and the Raiders on the tube right now. Tie ball game 10-10, even though Derek Carr is out fairly early in this game. It looked like a groin injury, so he was looking pretty unlikely to return. But Marcus Mariota doesn't look too bad so far, so we'll see what goes on with this Raiders offense. And then obviously, you know, we all know the Eckler and Mike Williams, you know, discussions right before this game. So we'll see. So far, the snap count is definitely for real because they don't look like they're really playing right now. The last couple of times I've looked before we started the show. But before we move on, I just want to remind everybody to subscribe, follow us on YouTube, Periscope, wherever you listen and watch us. We definitely appreciate the follows and the reviews and things like that. So we have a guest with us tonight, Samantha Previte, writer for New York Post and co-host of the Deep Sleepers podcast. Samantha, you there?
Yes. Hi.
Hey, how's it going tonight?
Doing great. Doing great because I am going up against Derek Carr in a super flex league right now. So
Yes, you and me both. Cheers to that. That's
yes,
awesome.
Cheers to that.
And speaking of cheers, let's before we move into the weekly topics, let's do our beer of the week.
Beer.
All right, so Samantha, as I kind of alluded to before the show, let you know we sip on something during the show. Looks like you are too. So we like to let everybody know what we're drinking. So you can go first as the guest of honor.
Well, it's kind of lame because I don't really drink a lot of beer, but I'm drinking a very basic black cherry White Claw. Basic girl, whatever.
Hey,
They're delicious.
it's fine.
They're delicious, easy to drink, and yeah, so love White Claws.
That's fine with me. AJ, what you got tonight?
All right. Well, I'm going to get my light show going here. See if it'll show up on the feed. I don't know. But being that it's the Christmas spirit here, I am drinking an eggnog with Evan Williams bourbon and Christian Brothers brandy and a little dash or several of cinnamon. I did not have any cinnamon sticks, so working with what I got here in a really sweet plastic wine goblet of sorts. So,
What the hell is happening?
Why not?
All right. So
cheers.
I'm drinking a beer, and it's a Astro Labs Brewing Super Grooviest. It's a triple IPA, 10.2%. So this will be a fun show. It's super smooth for a triple. Not a lot of bite to it, even though you can tell it's really hoppy. But like I don't know what they've done to it. It's just really smooth and creamy at the same time. So it goes down fast. I gotta be careful with it, but it's good, man. I gave it a 4.5 on Untapped. I like it a lot. So
Jeff is drinking a Christmas ale. Is that Breckenridge Brewing? Nice.
Breckenridge Brewing, love it. Amazing. Oh my goodness. I love Breckenridge. I'm going there tomorrow. So
awesome.
It kind of stinks because like I'm not staying the night or anything, so I can't have that like post ski beer, which totally hits different than any other beer that you have. So yeah, I have to wait till I have to get back to Denver, but it's fine.
All right. So let's jump into our weekly topics as we're heading into the second week of fantasy playoffs, the semifinals for most of us. We're just gonna kind of rip through some news and notes and just some interesting topics. I mean, I don't know how we don't start off with this one from Monday night. I mean, the $1 million question, the one on everybody's mind is, I mean, did Lamar poop or not? I mean, we got to do it. I mean, Twitter was just blowing up big time on this in more ways than one.
I think he should just own it. Like, what's the big deal? I don't know. I kind of think it's funny, and he also came out guns a-blazing and won the game. So
I know, right?
Just own it, man.
It's like the old, and you look at how he was walking, and I mean, I've had some leg cramps before, but I've also had some stomach cramps. So that was a stomach cramp walk if I've ever seen one. So I don't want to hear this. Oh, I wasn't doing the poop. Yeah, okay. I agree. Own it. Move on. You won the game thanks to that, I guess. Whatever burst of energy you got from it. Congrats.
I mean, it definitely made him look later, so whatever. Moving on. This was your idea, Jeff. Shut up. Giving us crap about this topic.
Pun intended.
Sorry. Yes, it was. Thank you. All right, let's move on to something for real. So, first time all this year, we've got Saturday games. Any concern for any of these Saturday games? Short week for some, for these teams. I know it's just one day, but sometimes that matters. Bills and Broncos, Panthers and Packers. And any issues, concerns about these games at all?
I don't have any concerns personally.
All right, fair enough. No, I don't either. I mean, some people do. Some people don't like to play these games where you've got players playing early. It's always sort of an interesting. You get people on Twitter like, should I play him now or wait for this guy later and things like that. I think when you're looking at the Bills players, I think you're absolutely playing. Josh Allen, you're playing Diggs. I'd probably stay away from everybody else. Broncos, not a lot to love there, unless you're just kind of reaching on Tim Patrick in the flex. The Panthers, I mean, DJ Moore, Mike Davis, maybe some Robbie Anderson, possibly. The Packers are probably just Aaron Jones, the usual Aaron Jones, Adams, and Rodgers, obviously. Nobody else. Well, Tunyon, I suppose, too. I don't know. It's just, you get these questions on Twitter all the time about these Saturday games, these early games. You get them a lot, obviously, with Thursday. People love to avoid the Thursday games, but we're finding out that you probably shouldn't do that anymore because they're actually somewhat high scoring now. I don't know. AJ, you got any thoughts about these Saturday games?
No, but I love the Tyron Johnson touchdown right here since I just picked him up and grabbed him and threw him into my lineup for tonight. So thanks, bro. You're helping all of my teams that are meaningless. No, because I didn't pick anybody up in Crab Cake.
Fantasy Six Pack. No. That's right. Yeah, we are playing a Crab Cake. Just kidding.
You yelled at me for picking people up in Fantasy Six Pack.
I just realized that as I was saying it. Sorry.
But no, Saturday games, I mean, whatever. It's just another day for football to take over. So I'm okay with it.
I will say this, as somebody who ranks, I really despise the Saturday games. It's just another day I have to pay way too much more attention to. I'd like to just have Saturday off. Thank you, NFL. Go away. All right, into some real talk. Jalen Hurts, his first start was rather successful. Not a lot of people predicted that to be a good start for him against New Orleans defense that was rolling. He ran for over 100 yards. I mean, didn't throw for a ton, but didn't need to. Is he a streamer play now going forward? If he does actually get all the rest of the starts, Samantha.
I mean, I think he's a streamer play. The rushing gives you a really, really safe floor, and I mean, he's probably in the conversation for top 12 this week, maybe right on that cusp there, around like Jared Goff, I would say. But yeah, I mean, I would start him over guys like, for sure, Matt Ryan, Ben Roethlisberger.
Right.
guys like that. So yeah, certainly feel like you could stream him this week.
Yeah, I like the matchup with Arizona as well. I mean, these teams used to play each other all the time anyways when they were in the same division. So they're familiar from eons ago. Not really the same teams now, but, I think that Hurts will come in here, and, I mean, he's still going to have a chip on his shoulder. He wants this job, and he played a hell of a lot better than Wentz really has last week. And like you said, he didn't throw for a lot of yards, but he was pretty efficient. For his first start, and the rushing yards were phenomenal. And that's what I talked about last week too, that he's going to have that extra element where he can get out into space where Carson Wentz can't. So, I like him this week as well. Next week in championship week, they got Dallas. So, okay, that's a nice game winner right there. So.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask about the Week 16 matchup too, where he gets Dallas, and that just screams championship all over for some reason to me. Like, he's a guy you're gonna get a pick up late, and he's gonna be able to do what he wants to do against that terrible Dallas defense. I don't know, maybe division game, maybe the defense shows up, but it just doesn't feel that way for Dallas this year at all. They've mailed it in big time. Samantha, you agree with that? Like, next week, absolute play. Like, unless you've got one of those like top 6, 7 guys, maybe even less.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, barring some kind of implosion this week, not that I think that will happen, but also we have to remember that it's a very small sample size that we've seen. I think it's great and encouraging, and he went against a really legit defense, and obviously Dallas's is not. So I don't think they're going to show up or anything like that, but there is the risk that maybe was just like he caught the Saints with their pants down type thing, and maybe people get a little more tape on him. But at the same time, I mean, like, Dallas ranks dead last in points allowed in the league, so I think it is a good matchup. So probably low end QB, mid to low end QB1 for next week.
Yeah, I agree. That is something to think about, though. Like, if new quarterback, nobody's got tape on him. You don't really know what to expect. We saw what Taysom Hill could do with the Saints, and it's not earth-shattering, like, really good quarterback play from like an NFL standpoint, but for fantasy-wise, like, we love it because he's running a lot, he's scoring the touchdowns, and that's all we care about. You could lose every game, and as long as you score 20 fantasy points, we're happy with you. So, moving on here, talking about these Saints, there's rumor, there's talk that Drew Brees could return this week. He is practicing, he's getting some first-team reps. He hasn't quite been cleared to play, but, just want to get your thoughts on when he returns. It sounds weird to say at this point, but, like, is it an actual upgrade from Michael Thomas? Michael Thomas with Drew Brees this season was bad. Granted, we know last year, but he was bad this season. Hill is just peppering him with targets nonstop, and so Thomas has been unbelievable with him. Is it an actual upgrade for Michael Thomas if Drew Brees is the starter?
Who's to?
Sorry, you can go.
Oh,
I'm out on that.
I mean, I'm not sure that it would be a serious upgrade because, like you said, he wasn't performant before when Drew Brees was healthy, because we definitely saw the arm strength waning, which, on the other side, though, like, really helps Alvin Kamara because he's like the king of the screen pass. So it doesn't matter if Brees has no arm strength, he will definitely be an upgrade. We saw those receiving yards really take a big hit with Taysom Hill, so probably not an upgrade for Thomas, but probably a decent upgrade for Kamara.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the Kamara side of it. AJ, what are your thoughts there with Alvin Kamara?
Kamara, 100% agree there. Thomas, I think, again, we're looking at last year versus a small sample size for this year, because Thomas has missed so much time himself. I think Kamara, though, I'm sure he's waiting for Drew Brees to get back because his stats have taken such a Lamar on everything with Hill in. So I think he needs to just get Brees back in there for his own sake. But I don't know why they're going away from him personally.
Are we making that a verb? Like taking a Lamar?
Yeah. I think we should. Started here. Well, started in Cleveland. But,
jeez. We've just circled back. We're keep drinking that eggnog, AJ. It's suiting you well. All right. I totally agree.
That's my favorite part of the holidays.
That's why you're in the Christmas spirit. You're drinking the Christmas spirit.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. I'm fine with that. We are the fancy 6-pack, but that's fine. I totally agree. I think I don't know if it's much of a downgrade for Thomas. I think it might just be kind of neutral. I think obviously when Thomas was playing with Brees early on, he wasn't 100% healthy, so I don't think that helped anything. I think once Brees got injured, Thomas was a little bit more healthy than when he was like a game and a half off of that injury that held him out for so long. And then Kamara, he's been coming on a little bit more, but yeah, that's the big winner there is Kamara when Brees plays. So you all are spot on there. Last topic we've got is Baker Mayfield. He's kind of lighting it up recently. I mean, it's weird to say, but is he actually a streamer option for playoff teams, fantasy playoff teams these last couple of weeks? Samantha, what do you think?
I mean, I would not suggest to stream him this week. Next week he gets the Jets, so that's a fantastic matchup.
Yeah.
But this week the Giants are actually sneaky good against quarterbacks. Like they give up the 5th fewest points, fantasy points to quarterbacks. So I don't love this game. I feel like this is a game that could be pretty low scoring, and I just feel like they're gonna hammer the run. It's gonna be a big Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt game, and I just feel like it'll be a more conservative game for Baker because that Giants defense has looked actually pretty decent recently.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I think a lot of people just look at the Giants and think they're trash, and then
it's very easy to think that.
It is. Yeah. So, and I do it too. I look at it, I'm like, oh, the Giants, yeah, and I'm like, oh wait, no, they're actually decent. Like, especially more recently too. Like they started off pretty bad, but they've gotten much better the last 5 or 6 weeks. So, be careful with that start, everybody. I'm hoping you got a better option at this point. I mean, AJ, what are your thoughts there? Like, if you can make it past this week, and obviously starting somebody else, hopefully, but if you can make it past this week and you get Baker versus the Jets, is that something you're really eyeing up and plugging in unless you've got like a Mahomes or those types of guys?
Yeah, I mean the quarterbacks that I really like in Week 16 are Brady, Rodgers, because their matchups are so nice. And Baker, I mean, he's got a great matchup, and we already talked about Hurts and his matchup, but the New Jersey Jets, as we can call them, are terrible. They're fighting off Jacksonville for worst in the league to get a draft pick, the first pick. And Baker's been destroying the last 2 weeks. Ironically, he has 2 threes and 1 4 in his yardage totals, 334 to 343. I'm weird with numbers too, but I don't like him this week at all. The Giants, we've already said, are good defense. I mean, hell, they're a game out of first place in the NFC East, so that says something, right?
No,
did not.
That does matter. So James Bradbury is on the COVID list, so that does matter. That'll probably bump him up a little bit, but I still think that Giants defense is good enough to not make him a lock-in starter this week. But that doesn't help. Oh, right, yeah. Jeff just brings up that they don't know if it's the close contact thing where he could get cleared before the game or if it's actually a positive test or not, to where he'd have to stay away from the team for a little while. So, yeah, that's something to watch out for. That definitely moves him up into the Big Ben territory for me if he is out, but he's not going to jump into the top 10 or 12 So I don't think he's a very useful starter in most cases. At this point, you've probably got a better quarterback than Baker. If you somehow tripped into the playoffs and the semifinals and you're starting Baker Mayfield, you have one hell of a team. So I don't know what you did, but call me because I want to know. He's been
They
bad.
didn't draft CMC or Saquon.
Yeah.
Or Mixon or any of the other running backs not named Kamara or Cook.
Henry.
Or Henry.
Yeah.
That's true.
All right, so Samantha, we want to get your thoughts this week on some DFS plays, some stacks that you like, whatever it is. We'll give you the floor here, just kind of let you go, and we'll respond as we see fit. So you take the lead.
Sure. There are 3 stacks that I really like for this week. It would be the Titans versus the Lions. So Tannehill is 6,700. I mean, Henry is the most expensive running back on the board this week at 9,500, and then AJ Brown is 7,600, and Corey Davis is 5,800. I actually love Davis at that number. That is I feel like a steal. Lions allow the 4th most points to receivers. The line is 10.5, meaning that the Vegas just thinks that the Titans are going to absolutely blow out the Lions, which feels very possible, especially if, the only risk, quote unquote, here is that the Lions fall behind so far that the Titans don't feel like they have to throw too much. So that is a little bit of a risk that they end up just giving the ball to Derrick Henry the whole time and running out the clock. But really like that stack in general. The Rams versus the Jets, we just talked about how the Jets are basically not good at anything. Goff is 6,300, Kupp is 7,000, and Woods is 6,800. Akers is 6,600, which is, I like him a lot this week, but the Jets, of the things that they can do, they have been somewhat decent against running backs, but in terms of the other side, they are also giving up the 2nd most fantasy points to quarterbacks and the 6th most to wide receivers. So really like that stack. And then the last one that I like is the Colts versus the Texans. Rivers is 5,900, which is dirt cheap. And then you've got Jonathan Taylor, who I absolutely love this week. The Texans are giving up so many yards to running backs. He is 7,200. And then T.Y. Hilton is 5,500, another guy that I think is a steal. I don't think that Bradley Roby is going to be playing, and T.Y. has really turned a corner in the last 3 weeks. He's finished as wide receiver 14, wide receiver 6, and wide receiver 3 in half PPR. So really excited about that stack as well. So those are the 3 stacks that I have in mind. What do you guys think of those?
Yeah, I like the T.Y. call. He's finally the old T.Y. that we're used to seeing these past 3 weeks. Yeah, it took 3 years, but okay, we're good. And he just lit up Houston for 110 yards on 8 touches, 11 targets, had a touchdown. So I don't see why he can't do that again or similar to that. He's a bona fide blowout pick this week, and Taylor is too, in my mind. As far as the other games, I'm all over the Titans too. Lions, nothing there that I really like. Too many injuries, too much of a headache to deal with. So why not take somebody that's going to beat up on them? Rams Jets is interesting to me. I think there's a lot of plays there. Woods is kind of dealing with some injury issues, so. Depending on if you're going to go after him, you could always try to keep an eye on Reynolds too and see if Woods is out. And Reynolds is a nice play at probably a pretty nice number. I'm not sure what he's at right now myself.
He is 3,700, which is basically the minimum.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
If Woods is out, then he's definitely the play because they're just not throwing to Everett or Higbee at all anymore, it seems like. Now that Akers has really stepped up and, Kupp and Woods have been there all season. So,
yeah, my only thought with that, and you kind of said it too, is with that Titans game, is they could get out to such a big lead, they just stop passing. And so that's my only fear with that stack. And so I may not I've looked at Tannehill and AJ Brown and stuff like that as like a possible play, and thought about it, but. This feels like another Henry game, and as Jeff alluded to last week, it's December, so it's always a Henry week, and he's right. I mean, look at last year and then in the playoffs. He's just a complete monster once the calendar turns to December, even late November. Teams just don't want to tackle this guy in when it's cold and they're tired, the season's long. It's just I wouldn't want to tackle him either, dude.
Who wants to tackle him ever? I mean, he's a grown-ass man.
Yeah, he's so big and so fast. Like, this breakaway speed always shocks me. Every time he, gets ahead of somebody, they can catch him. Oh, what the hell?
He's amazing. He's the best pure rusher to watch in the NFL, in my opinion. It's him and Nick Chubb, I feel like, 1 and 2. But. Yeah,
the old school style, pure rusher, too. It's so fun to watch. It really is. Yeah, I mean, I like all those stacks that you mentioned. The AJ mentioned the Woods thing. I was going to say that, too. So that's the one thing to watch out there for. So
yeah, I think the only thing with Henry they need to do is redo that commercial with James Harrison tackling the skinny white guy and try to make that guy Henry. And then let's see how that turns out. That would be interesting.
Okay.
That photo of him with Dion Lewis,
that's hilarious.
Free in my brain for the rest of my life. So
fantastic.
Bring your child to work day.
Bring your child to work day. That's good. Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I remember that. That was last year, right?
Yeah. Amazing.
Back when everybody thought Dion Lewis was a thing still. Man, we're wrong. I mean,
I was there.
Yeah.
I thought he was the thing.
All the guys raised their hands. It's like, nope.
Barkley went down quick.
I know, right? All right. So, you got any other plays that you like? Any other players? Just kind of off.
I'll give you a few other guys that I like in the mid-range, and then a couple of dart throwy guys. So I really like Brandon Ayuk this week at 6,300. He had 16 targets last week against Washington, which is absolutely insane. They face the Cowboys this week, who we have already just ragged on ad infinitum. Deebo Samuel's presumably out for the season, so I think he is a borderline wide receiver 1. You're getting him at 6,300, so it feels like he will easily return on that investment. Jalen Hurts at 5,900. The rushing just gives you such a great floor, and there is a lot of upside, I feel like. I think the Cardinals are kind of like a middle-of-the-road defense. And we saw how he performed against the Saints, who were actually really good. They hadn't allowed, a 100-yard rusher in a really long time, and they allowed 2 last Sunday. So that was great. And Jeff Wilson at 5,100. Even if Raheem Mostert plays, I kind of feel like he's hobbled. The ankle, whatever, has never really healed from the high ankle sprain that made him miss 4 games this year. Shanahan loves to use the committee, so he's definitely going to be used in some way. And if Mostert misses the game, he is a locked and loaded RB2. And then J.K. Dobbins at 5,900. Just love that guy. So just feel like he is now finally taking control of that backfield. Yes, Gus Edwards is going to be sprinkled in a little bit, but not a little bit. He is going to be sprinkled in, but this offense just loves to run the ball. So love J.K. Dobbins as well. And then 2 dart throw guys that I like. Chad Hampton at 4,200. The matchup is not super, super great, but he led the team in targets last week. Caught all 7 targets for 56 yards. QT got 3 targets for 24 yards and a touchdown, but I kind of think that he's been a pretty attractive guy for DFS. And then Lynn Bowden at 3,600. He definitely saw additional work with Myles Gaskin kind of on that surprise Saturday news drop that he would be on the COVID reserve list. He's super versatile, especially because you're getting the full PPR. Really, really interesting guy for daily. So those are all the guys.
Yeah, so I'll start. Ayuk, I love. Hurts, obviously good. Jeff Wilson, I do worry about, it's just Shanahan, right? Who knows what he's going to do, even if Mostert is out. He could just be oh, it's a McKinnon day.
Yeah.
Die.
I know.
Stop it. Dobbins, I like Dobbins' talent. the usage isn't quite there. I mean, we're seeing Gus Edwards just eat still in that backfield, but I do like Dobbins a little bit. Chad Hansen, I do worry, and we'll get to this in the injury part where Brandon Cooks is practicing. So if that happens, Hansen's kind of off the board.
Yeah.
And then Bowden, Salvin Ahmed is practicing too. So if that happens, Bowden's probably out too. I know he lines up. Yeah, but they're getting all the receivers back too. Right, but they're getting Grant. They're going to get Parker back. Where does Bowden fit? I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he got 9 targets.
I get it. Yeah, he gets all the. He got a ton of targets, and I picked him up at a couple of these because like all the injury news was there, and I was like, yeah, why not? I'm gonna snatch him up before anybody realizes it, and then everybody's practicing this week. I was like, oh well, but so I won't be using it, but David, yeah, he's like min price, so sure, why not? You never know. He could get 6-7 targets, catch 3 or 4 of them, 5 of them for 60 yards and make value there. So, all right, AJ, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, you definitely. I mean, he's just been balling out all season long. Hurts, we already talked about. Wilson, I mean, I own Wilson in a couple of leagues, and I'll probably be starting him just because those teams are out anyways. So that's probably why I own Jeff Wilson. Dobbins, I like. Yeah, I mean, I think a couple other people that are there, I might mention a little later. So we'll just leave it at that.
Oh, good. All right, so we're gonna rip through some injury news here, Samantha. We'll stop on a couple and ask you some questions here, but it's just more of a update news segment here. I'm gonna start here with the players that we know are out, and obviously Christian McCaffrey. It's not official, but let's be real, it's not happening at this point. Deebo Samuel hamstring, apparently gonna be out a while. So at this point, I don't even know if we're gonna see the rest of the season. Stafford likely out, rib injury. Thoughts on Marvin Jones and even DeAndre Swift and Hawkinson, who were pretty much lock starts at this point. But, I mean, the backup quarterback is not good there. So, where do those 3 fall for you in, if you do rankings or things like that? Like, where do they fall for you as far as like, comfortable plays this week and going forward if Stafford misses time?
I mean, personally, I think that DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson take much less of a hit. I feel like tight ends just tend to be more quarterback proof. We've seen lots of tight ends do well with terrible quarterbacks. And same with DeAndre Swift. I kind of feel like he'll still get a lot. He might even get more touches because they don't want to give the ball to, is it Chase Daniel, I assume?
Yeah, that's the 2 first names. That's right.
Yes, it is Chase Daniel.
Yeah, so, I mean, they might not want to throw too much. I think that Marvin Jones does take a pretty significant hit, though, of the 3 guys.
Yeah, I 100% agree there. AJ, I'm assuming you do, so we can just move on.
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
Alex Smith has a calf injury, did not practice. They're saying he still has a chance to play, but he needs to get in some work, obviously. So we could be looking at some Dwayne Haskins again. Yay. Running backs. Chase Edmonds' ankle did not practice, so Drake is looking good this week. Zeke, calf injury, has not practiced. He is doing some side work to try to get some, flexibility and strength put in that calf, but they're saying he's going to start. I got to ask you, though, Smith, at this point, do you even trust Zeke? He's been terrible.
No, I don't trust Zeke. And he has made multiple appearances in my sit column that I write for the New York Post. So, yeah, I mean, it's tough. I don't know who you're sitting. I don't know in what universe, unless you're in a 10-team league or something like that, where you have a lot of options that you're able to sit him, but you probably wish you had better options.
Yeah, I would hope that if you somehow made it to the semifinals and you've got Zeke on your team, that you've probably got some guys on your roster that you've picked up late. You might have snagged the Mike Davis, the Cam Akers off the waiver wire after somebody dropped them in their leagues. And then picked up Dobbins after he was dropped in leagues. I've seen that happen. I got him in one league. Gallman's so there's guys that could have been picked up.
I mean, 100% would trust Gallman more than
Yeah.
and that is
me
a
too.
huge indictment on Zeke
Right.
at this point.
I mean, we what?
How did we get to this point?
5-6 weeks ago, we laughed at Gallman. We were like, "What? Gallman? Who cares? We've seen this story before."
I still don't
this year it
understand
worked.
this.
Yes,
Still
this year
don't get
Gallman it worked. I don't get it. But yeah, no, Elliott for me is ranked running back 20, and I could honestly go lower. Like, it's just been terrible for him. But it feels weird to knock him lower than J.D. McKissick. But I might have to. Granted, this is my half PPR, so McKissick and PPR might move way ahead of him, but it's so tough with him, and he's been such a disappointment. Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay, both limited in practice. They're both expected to play, but again, guys you don't really want to start. David Johnson is off the COVID list. James Robinson dealing with a knee injury, limited, should play, but just to note that, keep an eye out for it. Again, I mentioned Ahmed for Miami, shoulder, the limited, he gets a huge workload increase with Gaskins already out. Obviously, if Ahmed's out, it's a mix of DeAndre Washington probably getting the lead carries, but yeah, you said it, Samantha. You stole my thunder here. I had Lynn Bowden Jr. Don't sleep on him because he's going to be huge. And I felt like he was much more valuable again with Ahmed out because he could get those backfield looks too. Not that he get a lot of carries, but maybe he get a lot of screens and little side off dump passes and things like that. But Raheem Mostert, we've mentioned ankle limited. Sounds like he's on track to play, which kind of surprises me. So that really destroys people who were just gung-ho about Jeff Wilson this week. Ronald Jones, doubtful. It was finger, and now it's COVID, so it just seems really bad for him this week. Fire up the Fournette, I guess. Antonio Gibson, toe injury, did not practice, seems very doubtful. So, AJ, you can go on with the rest.
All right, so moving on to the receivers here. Julio game time decision Jones did not practice, dealing with a hamstring. His teammate Calvin Ridley dealing with a foot. He was limited. DJ Moore is off the COVID list, but I'm not really high on him this week. Galladay, I don't even know why we're even still talking about him. He might as well just be lumped in with Debo at this point. Alan Lazard is dealing with a core injury still. He's limited. He should play, but he'll probably be on a snap count for the rest of the season here. We already talked about Brandon Cooks possibly coming back, dealing with a neck injury. He was limited. Robert Woods, we also touched on. He did not practice today, dealing with a thigh injury. Devontae Parker was limited with hamstring. Jakeem Grant, his teammate, hamstring, limited. I don't know. I guess hamstring is code for COVID down there, maybe. I don't know. Michael Thomas did not practice, dealing with an ankle. Jameson Crowder did not practice, dealing with a calf. His teammate, Rashard Perryman, was limited, dealing with a shoulder. And the last receiver we have here is A.J. Brown. Did not practice, dealing with an ankle. I mean, this is pretty par for the course for him. He'll likely play. And then moving on to tight ends, we've got Austin Hooper, who missed last week in the game of the season, is limited with a neck injury. Him and Cooks have been hanging out, apparently. Trey Burton did not practice with a knee injury. Mike Gesicki did not practice with shoulder injury. He is likely out. And Kyle Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, did not practice with a foot. What's up, Irv Smith? So, moving into our Week 15 picks. Take it away, Joe.
All right, yeah. So, Samantha, what we like to finish up here with is our weekly picks, where we do sleepers and busts for quarterbacks, running backs, and receivers, and then we'll do some tight end streamers and defensive streamer picks. With our sleeper picks, our quarterbacks, we like to use the Fantasy Pros Expert Consensus Rankings half PPR. Of course, quarterbacks, it's whatever. But a sleeper is anybody outside the top 15. What do you got?
It's funny that you say that, the PPR thing, because people send me questions that all the time. They're like, Phillip Rivers or, I don't know, whatever, half PPR. And I'm like, is Rivers going to be like catching passes out of the Wildcat? But like, whatever. Anyway, sorry, tangent. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Mitch Trubisky, who is QB 17 in our half PPR rankings.
You just made Jeff's day. I thought about picking it, and then I looked and went, no.
I mean, I know. Like, he looks good for like a couple games and gets like every Bears fan's hope. Like, it's so weird to watch Bears Twitter pivot so quickly. It's on like.
Yes.
Because like they are all back on the Mitch Trubisky train. Like they are like ready. They are, but anyway, he looks fantastic in week 14, finishes the top 7 quarterback in the second straight week. I mean, he's looked good, no interceptions. He's got one of the easier 3-game stretches to finish out the season. Vikings, Jaguars, and Packers on deck from weeks 15 through 17. So, I mean, yeah, I think he's like a really solid QB2 if you're in like a super flex league. And I think he flirts with QB1 status in Jacksonville. So I think he is a sleeper for this week at week 17. At QB 17, I feel like he's a little bit undervalued.
So I'm going to step in real quick before you go, AJ. I thought about Trubisky, and then I looked up Minnesota's numbers. They've been playing phenomenally better against quarterbacks lately. And granted, I know it's Dalton, and then you get Bridgewater, which is whatever, and then Glennon. But they shut down Brady. They shut down Stafford. It's just like,
who hasn't?
But
everybody shut down Stafford.
Just saying, I'm naming a bunch of quarterbacks who aren't very good, except for probably Brady. But we're also talking about Trubisky, so like, let's be real, like he's not very good either. So, okay, fantastic, great for Trubisky to have a couple good weeks, but I'd be careful with it against Minnesota, in my opinion. I liked it, I almost poked it, but I didn't because I saw those numbers and was actually kind of surprised against. I didn't realize Minnesota was playing that much better. So that's my only thought. So, AJ, who do you have?
Well, originally I had Derek Carr, and bah humbug to that, because apparently he didn't even make it long enough to get to the show. So I had to go ahead and change that to Nick Mullins, because boo Dallas. I mean, Dallas sucks.
Sure.
So why not?
I can drink to that, sure. So mine's going to be Teddy Bridgewater. Look, I get it's actually not a great matchup for him. Green Bay is actually pretty decent against the pass, but this feels like a game script type of pick here where they're going to start getting blown out pretty quick, and Teddy's just going to have to pass a lot. He also gets DJ Moore back, which does not hurt at all. So,
Yeah, but they hate DJ Moore.
They
do.
I don't get it.
Drives me so out of my mind because he's like got 1,000 receiving yards last year. He looks like the heir apparent, and yeah, like I don't know what he did to piss off Joe Brady, what he did to piss off like Teddy Bridgewater, but his usage this year has been legit baffling because I don't think that Robbie Anderson or Curtis Samuel, for that matter, are better receivers than DJ Moore. It's 100% that.
I get it. Yeah, Jeff. Yeah, I totally get it. It was hard to pick a sleeper quarterback this week. I kind of liked the rankings for the most part. I don't have them in the same order, but I liked pretty much everybody inside the top 15 that was in the top 15. And so trying to pick somebody outside of it wasn't very easy. I went with Teddy. That's what I got. So
no, it makes me feel good. I'm a Panthers fan. So
all right. So a running back sleeper is anybody outside the top 24. And half PPR matters here, so let's go with it.
All right, I'm going to go with J.D. McKissick. So, yeah, Seattle's actually been pretty good. Sorry, so he is RB 26 at half PPR. The Seahawks have actually been pretty good against running backs because I feel like at the beginning of the year they were like a joke and every game was going over. And they were just like almost like the Jets. It was like start everyone against him type thing. But they are actually allowing 96 total rushing yards per game, which ranks 4th in the NFL. That said, like McKissick is really like a slot receiver, so I think that he has like a lot of built-in kind of floor just because of that. That said, though, I think if Dwayne Haskins does start this game, that does devalue him a little bit because he seems to be Alex Smith's favorite weapon, loves to just do that weird slant pass again and again and again. And I mean, it works for PPR, but it might be, he might take a little hit if Haskins plays this game.
Gonna go over that. AJ, who you got?
All right. Well, we mentioned this guy earlier, and that's Mr. Gus Edwards. Look, I mean, he's not going to be a big yardage threat at all, but he's definitely a red zone / goal line threat. He's supplanted Ingram in touches and snap percentage easily. I know Ingram missed some time, but since he came back, they're like, oh, hey, cool. Justice Hill, you're up, you're in. He's out snapping Ingram. So, that's got to say something for a team that does nothing but, drop it in Cleveland and run the ball. So why not? But I like Gus Edwards. I told you to be back, so you gotta pick your spots.
I love it. So off the wall, off the rails.
Oh, this is your fault.
Don't ever underestimate me. You probably didn't expect me to be wearing all of this and drinking eggnog tonight.
Yeah, especially. Anyway, mine's Leonard Fournette. Look, Rojo's out. I mean, I don't see any way he plays this week. This is now Fournette's time. He is ranked criminally low. Like, I don't understand. I know he was benched last week, but they've already said if Rojo's out, Fournette's the guy. So I don't see how. Yeah, granted, it might not be a full workload. They're going to mix in McCoy. They'll mix in Ogunbowale or whatever the hell his name is. Yeah, really? Keyshawn. Oh, that's right. I forgot he got moved.
Shady
Anyway,
hello?
I said Shady McCoy.
I know.
He also sucks.
But he's at least still on the team.
Okay. Anyway, Fournette is my guy here. So
I have a little reservation about that just because, I mean, Atlanta, they're like sneaky, not bad against running backs. I actually can't tell if they're actually good against the run or if they're so bad against the pass that no one runs against them. And like, I know that the result is basically the same for fantasy, but like, it's weird to say that I think that it is pretty decent. Yeah. But yeah, so I guess that's at least one of my
I do agree with you.
With the fact that I don't think Leonard Fournette is a good running back. So.
I do agree with you, but Fournette's ranked like 54th, and I was like, there's no way he doesn't eat that value. So that's kind of what I was going with here. So I do agree with you. I don't love it, but desperate times, for some teams, I'm sure, especially with some of the running back injuries we're dealing with. Our wide receiver sleeper pick is anybody outside of 36. What you got?
Yeah, I had trouble picking a guy this week. I didn't really love a lot of these guys outside the 36 mark, but I'm going to go with Russell Gage at wide receiver 40. So if it looks like Julio's going to miss a game, I do feel like he would outperform wide receiver 40 status. Basically, I mean, he put up good numbers last week. Yes, one of those was a passing touchdown to Calvin Ridley, which was actually kind of great because I have a team with Gage and Ridley. So
nice.
Awesome points there. But
double dips.
Yeah, I mean, like, it feels like it could be a game that Matt Ryan has to throw in a lot. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, Matt Ryan hasn't looked great, but I think that, like I said, he could return on at least outperform 40.
Yeah.
And Tampa has been susceptible to posing wide receivers
a lot of high
too. So
games against people, which is kind of shocking. Even though the defense is like top notch, it feels like they.
But it's just like I feel like they're so tough against the run, but they are exploitable in other places.
Yes.
Yeah. So my pick this week, I know we kind of talked down about Baker this week, but I love Rashard Higgins. He's back-to-back games with a touchdown, averaged 6 receptions a game for those 2 games, 19 total targets, 81.5 receiving yards averaged, and now he has 65 or more yards in 3 of his last 4 games. So he's really taken on this OBJ role, as the go-to guy. And, again, granted, they did not have Hooper there last week, so that kind of helped. And it was such a crazy, awesome game, on all sides of the ball, running and passing. So, we talked about the G-men being a pretty good defense, but they're still kind of middle of the pack against opposing receivers. So, I think we could see a pretty good outing out of Higgins.
Yeah, no, I like him. I picked him up in one league. Unfortunately, never really got a chance to play him because my receiver core was pretty stacked. But I like the fact that I picked him up and held him away from everybody else.
I like it.
Yeah. So mine's James Washington. I mean, look, we all know Deontay Johnson's having issues catching the ball, and we saw his workload go down, and Washington's go up last week. And Washington has scored 2 weeks in a row now, and I could see it continue against the lowly Bengals pretty easily. So I like Washington a lot this week. So that's where I'm going. Our bust pick here for quarterbacks is anybody inside the top 12, and you can include the 12th if you really want to.
Yeah, this is painful for me because I am starting him in the league, but I'm going to go with Russell Wilson. It's unfortunate, but this Washington pass rush has looked so nasty. Like, that line is amazing. Montez Sweat and Chase Young, you just talked about grown-ass men like they are grown-ass men. And they have been up in everyone's face. And, I mean, yeah, we've also seen a little bit of a decline from Wilson. Like, maybe not letting Russ cook as much, but, like, yeah, I mean, he was playing at an MVP caliber for, like, the first 5 games of the season and really has kind of taken himself out of that race. So, yeah, I think that he could be a bust just because Washington has really boxed up a lot of guys. I mean, they completely, like, quelled the Steelers' perfect record and everything like that. So, yeah, I think that he could be a bust at QB6.
AJ.
That is also my pick this week. So, great minds. But yeah, I same thing. I just had Washington's. They're going to be in his face early and often. They're going to try to make it a one-dimensional game for Seattle, and by that I mean they're going to try to force him to play better because it's not going to be an easy day for Carson. I just don't. I don't like this game for Seattle. I think Washington's going to win, and I think it's going to be a bad game for Wilson.
Whew. Washington's gonna win. Wow. All right. At this point,
I just had to look at the odds. That's it's plus 225, so that's pretty good.
Yeah. My higher plane IPA says it agrees. So.
All right. So you both picked who I really wanted to. AJ got to it first, so I picked somebody different. But as I alluded to earlier, I just kind of like the rankings. I like where everybody fit in their slots, maybe not in the exact order, but top 15, top 12 was my top 15, top 12, etc. But I got to pick something for the show. I went with Tom Brady. Look, I know Atlanta's pass defense is still bad, but they've been better. The defense as a whole has just been better, and Brady hasn't been performing like he has, like we expect him to either. And we're getting Mike Evans and Godwin not 100%. AB hasn't really been a whole lot to really write home about. Rojo injury maybe forces him to pass a bit more, but I don't know, just something gut feeling tells me this is an off game for this entire team, and Atlanta could upset them, in my opinion. So. Give me the odds on that one too, I guess.
It's Atlanta is plus 220.
All right, so hey, not as bad. So there we go. I mean Tampa probably wins, but I mean it feels like this team's just off right now. There's just so many injuries. The defense could probably keep them in it, even though they do allow some yards and some fantasy points, but they are able to stop teams in the long run. So, and with Julio out, the Atlanta offense is pretty trash. So, all right, running backs here. Anybody inside the top 20?
Sure, yeah. We already kind of talked about this guy, but I'm going to go with Ezekiel Elliott against the 49ers. He is RB 19 and a half PPR. So San Francisco, in spite of like losing a lot, like, I mean, I feel like they must be the most injured team, but like, in spite of losing a lot of their really good playmakers, they also, like, DeForest Buckner left in free agency in the offseason. But they're actually been really good against running backs. They give up the fourth fewest fantasy points to running backs this year. We talked about Zeke's problems. Like, I don't know what's wrong with him. You can attribute at least some of it to the fact that Andy Dalton is a huge downgrade from Dak Prescott, but then it's also, we've seen, I mean, even in situations where I think he should thrive, he hasn't been thriving, and we've seen the ball security issues and all those things. So, I don't know, just worried that, he could fall pretty far outside that RB2 range.
100% agree.
Yeah.
AJ.
I like the Zeke pick, and I had my eyes on that one, but then I crept a little farther up, and I went with James Robinson. Yeah, I mean, I know he's questionable, or limited with the knee injury, but again, he should play. I just don't like him against the Baltimore defense. They've been susceptible to the run, a little bit this season. They're still fairly average, but Robinson only has one game since the Week 8 bye where he's had over 20 fantasy points. He's had a couple around 15, 16 as well. But, if Calais Campbell is going to play, and, granted, he didn't practice on Wednesday. I'm not sure what his status was for today. He's dealing with a calf injury. He's going to be trying to get into that Jacksonville backfield all game. I mean, he's got the revenge game, going on. So I just think it's going to be a tough battle for Robinson.
I was actually looking at him too for this pick as well.
Yeah, I have three there, so I went a different way though. I went with DeAndre Swift. Again, it's more just that I feel like this whole offense is going to suffer without Stafford there. Game could be a blowout pretty quickly, and they're just not going to utilize the run game. I know Swift can catch passes out of the backfield, so he'll still carry a little bit of value, but it's not going to be anything you really want to rely on here. So careful with starting Swift. You've got options that are close, so you might want to take the chance on them. Close out here our busts. We're going to do our receivers. What are you talking about, Jeff?
Slow your roll.
Jeff drinking. Got sure. Jesus. All right, our receivers. Anybody inside the top 24?
Sure. We've kind of talked about this offense and our concerns with it. I'm going to go with Tyler Lockett at Washington. He is wide receiver 17 and a half PPR. So, I mean, it's not just the matchup. Like, the matchup's bad, but it has been a disappointing stretch for Lockett managers. He's fallen shy of that top 30 mark in 8 of the last 10 games. And, yeah, he caught 5 of 5 passes last week for 52 yards, but it is against the Jets. Like, everyone is supposed to carve up them. They rank 31st in passing yards allowed. So he goes from a team that ranks 31st in passing yards allowed to Washington, who literally is on the opposite side of the spectrum, allows the second fewest fantasy points allowed to wide receivers this year. So, it's another situation that we were talking about with, like, Zeke. You probably maybe are not in a situation to sit him, but, like, you probably wish you could.
Yeah, I was like that in a couple leagues I had him in, unfortunately. All right, AJ, who you got?
I was originally going to go with Michael Thomas here. I feel like he has been good with Hill under center, as we already alluded to, but Kansas City is just so good against opposing wide receivers this year. They've only given up 3 100-yard games, and one of them was to PED's Fuller, who went 8 for 112 on 10 targets. One was to Henry Ruggs, who had 2 receptions for 118 and a touchdown. Granted, the touchdown was a 72-yard bomb. And the last one is Curtis Samuel, who kind of had like the really only good game of the 100-yard guys, going 9 for 9, 105 and a touchdown. But that's mostly because DJ Moore was, being DJ Moore this year. So we're making that a verb now too. But yeah, I mean, I don't love the matchup for Thomas. We already talked about Kamara getting a little more friendly with Hill, I guess. He's got the ankle ailment. He's not really practicing. So, all that being said, I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson. Joe?
All right. I'm totally confused, but yeah.
You're welcome.
And I'm also confused because Kalen Ballage just scored the touchdown for the Chargers and not Austin Eckler. So
is Austin Eckler even like
he came off the field like once they got inside the 10-yard line or something. So
it's killing me.
Oh,
awesome.
Yeah, so Jeff is telling us behind the mic that you guys can't hear that Eckler has less red zone touches than everybody on the Chargers, including the entire defense. No, just kidding. But yeah, pretty much on the entire offense that matters.
There's an eligible lineman who was checked in and had more red zone appearances than Eckler this year.
I feel
another
like
fun fact.
It's the Simpsons gif. It's like, stop.
Yeah.
He's already dead.
Yeah, right.
Or it's Homer wearing an Eckler jersey, just going into the bush and never coming back out.
Disappearing.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
All right. Terry McLaurin is my receiver. Look, we know Seattle's secondary has been bad this year overall, but if you look back at the last few weeks, they've been really good. And I get it. It's been against the Giants, the Eagles, and the Jets. Teams are not really, excited about. But look, it's not like Alex Smith or even Dwayne Haskins is going to light it up against anyone. Seattle really did turn a corner. And look, McLaurin has 5 fantasy points in the last 2 weeks. He's caught like 4 passes total. It's been brutal for him. So I can't get on board with really, him being a true star. I keep moving him down every time I do my rankings. At some point, I'm going to stop, but because I know he had that potential just to blow up. But he just feels like another bust this week to me. So our streamer picks here, we do a tight end and a defense, both 60% owned or less, according to Yahoo. Samantha, who do you have for tight end streamer?
Sure. I'm going to go with Irv Smith at 14% rostered. He has looked great with Kyle Rudolph off the field. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but there's a good chance that Kyle Rudolph doesn't play this game. He finished as tight end 3 last week, caught 63 yards and a touchdown. I think he's a really worthwhile streamer this week against the Bears, who, had a decent defense this year, but they are actually sneaky bad against tight ends. And they're giving up the 6th most fantasy points to tight ends this season. So I think he could do a lot worse than Irv Smith this week, and he's widely available.
100% the notes I had. So, AJ, you finish up tight ends. Who you got?
All right. Well, I'm going for a super deep dive, and it's the guy that I grabbed at, what was it, like 3:20 a.m. or so when I randomly woke up from the couch the other night. Mr. Dan Arnold. I mean, dude, he's owned in what, like 2%? 2% rostered in Yahoo leagues right now. There's probably a good reason for that, but after the last 2 weeks, drafted him as Scuffish actually,
and it dropped it 3 weeks later. If not two.
I don't. No, I think I took PJ Walker as a flyer instead of Arnold, but that didn't work either.
That also worked out about 13 years later.
Also my first drop. He's got 4 receptions in the last 2 weeks, a combined 88 yards across those games, and 3 touchdowns. So you'd think, okay, well, that sounds pretty good. Well, yeah, you look at the numbers a little bit more. He's obviously touchdown dependent, but he's getting his targets for the most part in the red zone. He had a 7-yard touchdown in week 14, a 2-yard touchdown in week 13, and then a 59-yard touchdown in week 13. So both of his catches in week 13 randomly were touchdowns. But, I just think if you're looking for upside, and he's going against the Eagles, who frankly suck this year. I hate to say it, but it's they've given up good games to Tanyan, to Cook, both end zone games. Nick Boyle found the end zone against them. George Kittle absolutely demolished them, going 15 of 15 for 183 and a touchdown. Granted, Dan Arnold is no George Kittle. Even with Kittle's current health situation, I think he could outplay him. But yeah, that's Titans. No, wrong. They both wear red jerseys as well.
There we go.
All right. So our defense streamer to close the show out here, Samantha, is any team own 60% or less in Yahoo. What you got?
It was a tough call between Minnesota and Tennessee. I am gonna lean Tennessee here, even though they don't have a good defense. They have, in certain weeks, put up points on the DSC side, and I think this is contingent on Stafford not playing and this whole offense kind of imploding. So I think it could be very low scoring on the other side of the ball. So I think they probably have the best matchup of the guys that are of the units that are widely available.
Yeah, that was mine. It was the Stafford injury, and look, I actually kind of like the matchup anyway, but I like it more now. So that's who I went with. AJ, I'll let you finish it up.
Well, that's pretty amazing because I had Minnesota as my pick here. Their defense has been kind of up and down this year, but they put up a 10 spot against Chicago earlier this year. They still have a really solid run defense. So as awesome as Montgomery's been the past few weeks, I think he could have a little bit more of an uphill battle this week. You're probably still starting him in most leagues. But yeah, I just kind of like the upside of Minnesota. They're playing at home. Obviously they have the suddenly stellar Mitch Trubisky, but
this could also just be a Mitch game. Like, this could be a Mitch game where he throws 3 interceptions.
Well, yes, embarrassing. They're all the Mitch games.
Such a great game last week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reason he had such a great game last week is because I was going up against my new nemesis in my home league, the guy that beat me in the championship last year, and has beat me twice this year in regular season. I had to play him again as the opening round, and he flattened me again, but because I dropped Trubisky. So that's why that happened. I know it's my fault. My team on paper was phenomenal coming into this year, and thank you, injuries and everything else, it doesn't matter. Fantasy football is just
injuries.
I'll blame it on anything I can. It's not my fault.
We're gonna pour a little. No, it's not pouring anything else. So, all right, that's it. That's all we got for the show. Samantha, I want to thank you again for coming onto the show. Before you leave, let everybody know where they can find you on the internet.
Sure. You can find all of my written work at nypost.com/football and all 450 articles in 2020. And you can find me on Twitter at Samantha NFL, very easy to remember. And then I'm on TikTok and Instagram at Previte. That's Sprevite. Not super active on Instagram, but I am like very much on TikTok. It's a very fledgling fantasy football community. I anticipate all you guys joining and doing stupid handstands with me as well. So yeah, find me there for kind of all silly content. My Twitter feed is like literally just all insanity. It's like cookies and assembling furniture and weird dating stories and some fantasy football, of course.
And I love all of it. That's I saw it was just like I wrote Jeff like 2 weeks ago. I was like, this is awesome. I want her on our show. He was like, I'm on it. He was so excited. Yeah, I don't know about the handstands thing. AJ, I don't know about you, man. If I try to handstand, I might break my neck. It'd be bad.
I don't know. I have to get the lights in the show here so I can
okay,
see the full view.
Look at me.
Everything I got going on. Out of the way, Mike.
Oh jeez.
Yes. I could attempt to do a handstand. I don't know what I'm doing with the camera now. It's totally
we're not going to try this now.
No, I'm not saying right this second.
I look like you were trying to clear everything off and like.
Yeah, I'm going to stand on my
going
desk
right there,
and kick the ceiling and wake everybody up. That's going to go over real well. They'll come down to see me lit up with an empty, huge goblet of no more eggnog and what the fuck. So no, not doing that.
Believe me, taping that one was harrowing. So now I do have furniture, and which has definitely limited my space for all of these.
You're like walking around the entire room. I was like, this is impressive as hell.
Believe me, timing that was the hardest part. Like the handstands are not hard, but getting it timed with all the clips and everything was a lot harder than it looks, I think. So there were some that people were like, I can't tell where you went. And I'm like, I did my best here. Read my start sit article.
anytime you can do a handstand for that long is, impressive to me. So it doesn't matter what else had to happen. So, all right, again, we got to close out, but thank you again for coming on the show. It was a good time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. All right.
Thanks.
Have a good night. All right, Jeff, I think we are done. So close us out, man. Cheers.